Hello and good evening. You're watching Super 6. I'm Akshita, Nandagopal. Our top focus this evening is on the conflict between Iran and Israel. Yesterday, of course, we were getting you those non-stop updates of America entering the conflict. And as everyone focuses on what Iran's response is going to be, there's a big question mark on whether the next step of Iran is going to be completely closing off, choking the Strait of Hormuz, something that will affect not just America, but almost every country in the world. There's a concern that it will affect us here in India too. So on the show, we're going to be talking about the possibility of Iran taking that step and what the Indian government has to say about the same, whether it will affect oil prices and oil supply to India or not. I'm Akshita Nandagopal. Let's begin. Day 11 of the Israel-Iran conflict, the West Asia conflict, and there are no signs of de-escalation amid questions about what Iran will do next after US also stepped in and hit nuclear sites in Iran. We're seeing non-stop strikes on both sides between Israel and Iran, with missiles attacking, drone attacks being reported. Let's get you all of those updates first. On your screens is the video of an Iranian missile hitting Israel's Ashdod city. A dashcam footage showed stones and debris flying in the air as the missile exploded at the side of the road near a moving vehicle. Moments later, the car windshield can be seen covered in dust as the driver sped away from the point of missile impact. The coastal city of Ashkelon in Israel was also struck by Iranian missiles. Images on your screen show smoke coming out from close to an electricity infrastructure facility in Israel. There were also reports of power outages in several areas of the city right after the strike. And similar scenes of devastation, of destruction in several Israeli cities. Many buildings turned into rubble in Nes Ziona city after Iranian strikes. The city is located just a few kilometers from Tel Aviv. Iran also witnessed a series of fresh and more intense Israeli strikes. One of the strikes reportedly hit the gate of a prison, Evin prison, the infamous facility known for holding Iran's critics, political prisoners, journalists, academics and human rights activists. A clear message being sent across by Israel. Amid exchange of missiles, the Iranians downed Israel's Hermes drone during their military operation in Iran's airspace. Israel military also confirmed that one of their drones was shot down. Iranian media posted a video showing the digital clock in Tehran's Palestine Square, which is still active. This is to counter Israeli claims that this was bombed. The display counts down to 2040 based on Khamenei's 25-year prediction of Israel's destruction. Latest videos from Iran's capital Tehran show a massive cloud of smoke rising toward the sky, an indication of a fresh round of missile strikes by Israel. According to reports, loud blasts were heard in the city. Tel Aviv has stressed that it's only targeting military sites. There's panic and chaos across Tehran as Israel continues its strikes in the Iranian capital. Some abandoned and destroyed buildings can also be seen along the sides of the roads. The iconic Vanak Square in Tehran was also struck by Israeli missiles. 6 airports in Iran's western, eastern and central Iran were also attacked. Remotely manned Israel aircraft destroyed 15 Iranian aircraft and helicopters, disrupting their takeoff ability. And amid escalating tensions in West Asia, on your screens is flight data that shows airlines avoiding the airspace around Israel, around Iran. Flight tracking websites show completely empty spaces over Iran, Iraq, Syria and Israel as commercial airlines suspend some Middle East flights. This right after the US struck Iran. So a day after US strikes on Iran nuclear sites, the biggest threat right now that hangs over the world is if Iran's retaliation will be by choking the Strait of Hormuz. It connects the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and then goes right down to the Arabian Sea. So that stretch right there, just below Iran, is where the Strait of Hormuz is. It's extremely crucial because to the Persian Gulf, to all of the Middle East countries, and then across to the Arabian Sea, it's this particular strait that connects it. So to the north of the strait, as you can see there, is Iran. To the south is Oman, a bit of UAE as well. The Strait of Hormuz isn't controlled by a single country. Its security and control, however, are influenced heavily by surrounding nations. And that's why Iran too, because of its strategic, geographic and military position. The Iranian parliament now has approved the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, but the final call is yet to be taken on that. This is the first step towards going ahead and saying that, look, we are going to be using this to target the West. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most strategically important waterways in the world. 30% of the global seaborne oil trade passes through the strait, 20% of global LNG trade as well. And that's why there's already been an impact. Brent crude oil prices rose nearly 2% to $78.53 a barrel. This is now a 5-month high. Since January, the highest it's ever been. And unfortunately, looking at the threats coming in from Iran, it could continue to shoot up.
The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway, just 21 miles across at its tightest point. Yet, it handles about 20% of the world's oil. For India, around 2 million barrels of crude per day flow through this fragile corridor. That is nearly 40% of its imports. Major suppliers like Iraq, Saudi Arabia and the UAE rely on this route. If Iran blocks the strait, global prices will spike, supply lines may falter, and economies worldwide, including India's, could feel the squeeze. But is India panicking? Not quite. Years of diversification have reduced India's reliance on the strait. Russian oil, for instance, now forms over.
We import roughly 4 million barrels through other routes, and our companies, the oil marketing companies, have enough stocks. Most of them have stocks up to 3 weeks. One of them has in fact 25 days stocks. And we are also confident that we can increase the supply of crude through other routes should the situation so warrant.
India isn't alone. China, which imports nearly half of its crude through Hormuz, including over 1.8 million barrels per day from Iran, is also in a bind. The US now wants Beijing to pressure Tehran.
Well, I encourage the Chinese government and Beijing to call them about that because they heavily depend on the Straits of Hormuz for their oil. If they do that, it'll be another terrible mistake. It's economic suicide for them if they do it.
Closing of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran is something that it would be extremely dangerous and not good for anybody.
Whether or not Iran follows through, the threat alone is enough to shake markets. For India, preparedness will be tested. But panic is off the table, at least for now. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Okay, let me bring in on this broadcast Shivani, who's joining us live from Israel. She's been getting us ground reports on the current situation. We also have Siddharth Zarabi, editor of Business Today TV, with us. Shivani, I'm going to come across to you first on how concerned the Middle East right now is over these threats that Iran has been constantly posing, that look, they could go ahead and choke the Strait of Hormuz. How has Israel themselves reacted?
See, Israel is right now activated its multiple alert mechanisms because Israel has been witnessing attacks from Iran in last 2 days very aggressively, especially after the United States has bombed the nuclear sites inside Iran. When it comes to the nature of attacks that have changed from Iran's side, Akshita, I must tell our viewers that now Iran is choosing not only the residential areas inside Israel, various cities of Israel, be it the Tel Aviv, that happens to be the city center. Here, multiple residential areas have been hit and they are damaged in a severe manner. But also the economic areas, especially the port cities of Haifa, the port city of today I was reporting from. So they are now targeting on all these cities that can hit not only the people out here, but the infrastructure, the economy, the banks, the malls, and when it comes to the decision of blocking the Strait of Hormuz, this would be a big decision that Iran will have to think about before taking it ahead, because it's not the only country that can be affected. There are multiple partners which Iran has, that like China, they also use this Strait of Hormuz. So it has to think before and weigh all options before it decides and mulls over the blockage. But yes, when it comes to Israel and its strategy, Israel is working on multiple fronts, countering the attacks that are coming in from Iran and aggressively increasing the number of attacks on the military targets inside Iran. So the tension seems to be escalating. Since this is the 11th day, there are no signs of Iran and Israel coming back, and this means that there will be coming days will be more important in terms of keeping Israel people safe, because you know the security ladder has gone up to the essential too. That means only people who can move out are the ones who need who need some essential services to move out. Schools and colleges remain closed, markets are closed, the workplaces are closed. Only those things which are actually required very essentially are open. So this is how Israel is dealing with the whole situation, working and countering the strikes too.
All right, Shivani, stay safe out there. Shivani's been reporting from some of the worst affected parts of Israel where there have been bombings by Iran. Thank you, Shivani, for the moment, for joining us with those updates. If Iran goes ahead and takes that step of actually closing off or choking the Strait of Hormuz, what does it really mean for India? Let's look at the India picture here. Now, the reason that we've been talking about this having an impact on India is first because about 45% of India's oil supply actually comes via the Strait of Hormuz. All the supplies from the Middle East, it passes through this particular strait. Oil prices could soar above $100 to $120 per barrel if this route is shut. That obviously affects every single country in the world. India too won't be immune to that kind of a price surge. Soaring fuel prices may directly lead to inflation in India as well. So what the government will do on that front remains a big question mark, because there are some things that we can control. But like if global oil prices go up, that's something that will hit every country. The closed Strait of Hormuz may lead India to actually resort to using longer, costlier routes. Essentially, then you have to shell out more. The other big takeaway of how all of this impacts India is the Chabahar port project, one that was deemed as a game changer. It's an India-Iran project. It could be affected, essentially delayed. But let me just put this in context for you. How badly is India going to be affected if Iran does this? We've broken down for you what really India's oil sources are as of 2025. And you can see there the maximum amount of oil comes in from Russia, 38%. Iraq at 16%, from Saudi Arabia 15%, from UAE 10%. But you see those numbers, and essentially the number one contributor is Russia. So there you're not going to face any problem. But then Iraq, Saudi Arabia, UAE, it's from these countries essentially that we could face a problem. And I'd like to bring in Siddharth Zarabi, editor of Business Today TV, to join us on this broadcast. Siddharth, what do you think? If Iran takes that step of closing off the Strait of Hormuz, is there a worry for India? And what have government sources told you about what they're planning to do then?
Well, any change, volatility or spike in crude oil prices is never good for India. That's what history has taught us. If Iran were to be suicidal and choke off the Hormuz Strait, estimates suggest that crude oil prices could jump immediately between 30 to 50%. And there are estimates that I have seen of $110, $120 dollars to the barrel. But is that going to happen? Perhaps not. There are two clear reasons for that. More than India, China is the biggest player when it comes to Hormuz Strait. 50% of China's crude oil gets transported from there. It's a resource-hungry nation. It doesn't have crude oil sources of the kind that America has. Remember, America's dependence on Gulf oil, as it is broadly called, is perhaps 5 to 7% at best. Therefore, China and its very close relationship with Iran will perhaps be the biggest guiding hand. So the Chinese hand is what will really guide a final decision by the Supreme Council of Iran on what would be clearly very, very suicidal economically also for Iran. Remember, Iran is a significant crude oil exporter. Much of its foreign exchange earnings come on this account. Therefore, to expect that Iran would want to commit economic harakiri, we'll have to wait and watch whether it chooses to retaliate by cutting off its nose or whether it chooses some other path.
And what do you think, Siddharth, of how the government here in India is also choosing to respond? Right now, they're saying that there's no reason to worry because we largely also get our oil supplies from Russia. Do you think that's the case, that besides global oil prices affecting us in India, there are other reasons to be concerned?
Well, you know, the fact is that in the last 11 years and 3 administrations of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I would argue that this is the longest ever in the past 20-25 years that pump prices of petrol and diesel have remained frozen pretty much since mid-2022. There have been tax changes, but consumers have been protected through spikes that have happened previously as well as downfall. So very clearly what the government seems to be suggesting, and we have heard Oil Minister Hardeep Puri also speak on this, and given electoral considerations, state elections or all of that, even if there is a spike, the consumer is going to remain protected as far as petrol and diesel are concerned. There could be some hit that will have to be taken on LPG again. But broadly speaking, I personally believe that as far as a direct consumer hit is concerned, unless there is some huge massive fallout, consumers in India should remain protected for the future.
Well, we certainly hope so. I'm sure for all of our viewers watching this broadcast, they're heaving a sigh of relief hearing what you have to say, Siddharth. Thank you very much for joining us here on Super 6. Thanks, Siddharth. But let's get down to it. You know, Siddharth was talking about how it's essentially a suicidal move if Iran actually goes ahead and takes any steps of shutting off the Strait of Hormuz because they have so much at stake. But can the country actually do that? Do they have complete control of this particular strait? Not really. If you look at the details, this Strait of Hormuz isn't owned by any country. It's an international strait. What does that mean? It's governed by international law. Essentially, there's a body called the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. It's the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea that takes all calls about what's okay and what isn't as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. And so right now, as per international law, this strait must be open to ships of all nationalities. There can be no blocking off of some ships, of some, ships that originate from certain countries. None of that can happen. Neither Iran nor Oman can actually impede passage or to foreign ships. And the reason I refer to Oman here is because to the north of the strait is Iran and to the south is Oman, which is why neither of them can. It's actually governed by international law. Pranay Upadhyay of India Today Global is joining us with more on this. Pranay, that leads me to ask the question here about whether it's just an empty threat right now being put forth by Iran that, look, we're going to take action against the Strait of Hormuz, or is this actually a possibility?
This can be a possibility, Akshita, but that possibility has never been exercised by Iran. I would agree with what Siddharth just now said in your show, that Iran, the feasibility of this option is very difficult to implement even for Iran. Not because the UNCLOS is there, like United Nations laws of the seas are implemented in this region that is governed. This region is being governed by the UN, but also a lot of stakes are there. I agree with Siddharth on that count that China is the most worried country right now, because and that's why the Chinese Foreign Ministry has issued a statement just a while ago saying that the Persian Gulf and its surrounding waters are a vital channel for international goods and energy trade, and safeguarding security and stability in the region serves the common interests of the international community. And that's why China has called upon the international community to intensify efforts to de-escalate tension and prevent the regional instability from having a greater impact for global economic development. Why China is so worried? Because China gets the maximum share of this energy trade from this region. Also, India, Japanese Foreign Ministry has also issued a statement, on the similar tone. South Korea also gets, energy from or the oil from this region. So oil and gas supplies, it's are not easy to disrupt, even if Iran want to implement it. And more so, there is another military aspect of it, because strategically, if Iran want to open a military and maritime front on this area, then there will be a wider conflict which will make Iran lose the sympathy. Right now, many people in the region also, many countries think that Israel has taken it too far by hitting the military and the nuclear establishments of Iran. But now, by putting up a blockade in the region, Iran would lose the sympathy. Iran would not want to exercise this option. This might be a consideration for a posturing. But exactly implementing it, for that, Iran need to move its naval assets, have to put up a blockade in that area. This will disrupt the entire region, and this will have more cascading effects.
Correct. So, it's not just a question of other countries suffering, but also Iran and its own allies also suffering. And I'm sure that's something that they will take into consideration before taking any action. For now, there's a lot of talk about the Strait of Hormuz coming from Iran itself, and they've constantly been threatening it. Will they actually do it? We'll have to wait and watch. Thanks very much, Pranay, for joining us on this broadcast. Let's put the focus now on the bypolls that were held across the country, and let's talk about 4 states in particular and the big takeaways. In Kerala, in the Nilambur seat, you had a bypoll which has been taken away from the LDF, and UDF's Aryadan Shaukat has won the election. So stunning victory for the Congress, for the UDF in Kerala. And considering next year the assembly elections in Kerala, this will be worrying news for the LDF because it's a sign of anti-incumbency. We're going to be talking about Kerala, but let me just round up for you all the results that came in and the big headlines. In Gujarat, in Viswavadar, you had Gopal Italia of the Aam Aadmi Party winning. Not really surprising, because this was a seat that had an Aam Aadmi Party representative, so it's been essentially retained by AAP. But again, in a state like Gujarat, it still becomes a big headline that AAP continues to hold on to that seat. In Punjab, Ludhiana West seat, Sanjeev Arora was the Aam Aadmi Party candidate, and he's managed an easy win in that particular seat. Again, for the Aam Aadmi Party, this was a seat that they had previously. They've managed to ensure that they retain the Ludhiana West seat. So 2 bypolls, essentially no big surprises. In Kerala, yes, you had a big change in mandate. Kaliganje in West Bengal, the Trinamool Congress again holding on to power, much like Gujarat, much like Punjab and Bengal too. This is a seat that was with the TMC, remains with the TMC. Let me bring in our reporters on this broadcast to get your quick takeaways on each of those state results. Shibi Mol is joining us from Kerala, from Nilambur. We also have Aman Bharadwaj and Brijesh Doshi, who will go to in just a bit. But Shibi, to you first on the big takeaway of that result. With months to go for the assembly elections in Kerala, you're going to be seeing a worried LDF after this particular result.
Well, absolutely, Akshita. In fact, this is a huge boost as far as Congress is concerned. Going into the assembly election scheduled in less than 10 months. This is also in the last 5 years, the first time they're winning a sitting seat of LDF. It's a seat held by the LDF since the last 9 years. In fact, the interesting part is the sitting MLA, who was PV Anwar, he was an independent MLA backed by the Left Democratic Front. And he was the MLA for the last 9 years. He had a fallout with the left, especially with Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, raising very serious allegations against him and his office, saying that, there's saffronization taking place in the Home Department. He had a fallout with the left. He left the front and then resigned and decided to contest as an independent candidate backed by the TMC this time. So, he tried his best to enter the UDF, the Congress-led UDF, but opposition leader V.D. Sadishan was adamant about contesting alone. And despite contesting alone, they have come out victorious with a huge margin. But Nilambur is definitely a constituency constituency, which has, though it's been held by the left since the last 9 years, CPIM does not have a strong base as when you compare it with Congress. It's a seat mostly held by the Congress. It's a constituency that comes under the Wayanad parliamentary constituency also. So for the Congress, it's a major boost. The fact that they've got back their seat, their stronghold after 9 years, and it's also the first election taking place after Priyanka Gandhi took over as the MP of the constituency. So a lot of positives, and also the fact that they've established that there's anti-incumbency factor on ground is also a major boost, and left definitely has a lot of questions to answer in the coming days, especially going into the elections, because they have been raising this, consistently saying that there's no anti-incumbency on the ground.
Which is why Priyanka Gandhi also has put out a statement hailing this victory. For the UDF cadre, of course, this will be essentially a shot in the arm as they go into election season. Shabi, thanks for those details. Let me bring in Aman Bharadwaj, who's joining us live from Chandigarh. Let's talk about the results that came in from Punjab. Ludhiana West, you had Sanjeev Arora of the Aam Aadmi Party winning. This was a seat, of course, that was in the focus because there were a lot of questions about who will contest. But Aman, no surprise there for the Aam Aadmi Party. They will be heaving a sigh of relief that they managed to retain this particular seat.
Exactly, but though the vote percentage was 51%, 90,000 people only out of 174 voted, and there was 3 years anti-incumbency also. There were challenges within the party from the party workers and supporters, and also from the opposition's party. But though Aam Aadmi Party still managed to take the seat away, and also it's Rajya Sabha MP Sanjeev Arora who just marked his victory, and also there are discussions now that who will get as a Rajya Sabha MP from Punjab in place of Sanjeev Arora now, because there are discussions over Arvind Kejriwal getting into Rajya Sabha, or Minister Sodhia, or national face of Aam Aadmi Party via Punjab. But party sources are also somehow informing that the party will try to cover up whatever political dent has been faced by the Aam Aadmi Party, whether it's farmers or any other sector of in Punjab for Aam Aadmi Party. But the victory was edge-to-edge fight, because Congress got 25,000 votes and BJP got 20,000 votes with difference of 5,000, and Aam Aadmi Party with lead of 10,000 votes, they managed to get the seat. But
okay. So a big win there for the Aam Aadmi Party in Punjab. Let me also bring in Brijesh Doshi to talk about that seat in Gujarat. Again, great news for AAP. It's a day for them to celebrate as they managed to retain this seat too, the Viswadhar seat. And Brijesh Doshi is joining us with those updates. Brijesh, when the Aam Aadmi Party won the seat in 2022, considering it was a BJP stronghold, it was a big surprising turn. And so there were questions now for the Aam Aadmi Party to ensure that they cement this particular seat as their own, not just a stroke of luck that they won in 2022, which they've done with this victory now.
Traditionally this seat is anti-establishment seat. So from last more than 18 years, BJP didn't win this seat ever. Earlier, this seat was held by the BJP stalwart late Keshubhai Patel, who was the first BJP chief minister in Gujarat. So it was a BJP stronghold, but from last 18 years, it's an anti-establishment seat. So that's why earlier 2 terms Congress won the seat. Last term, Aam Aadmi Party won the seat. Bhupat Bayani was the MLA who won the seat, and after that, in a year, he left Aam Aadmi Party and joined BJP. So that's why this bypoll was conducted on this seat, and again, Aam Aadmi Party won this seat. So Aam Aadmi Party has retained the seat with a bigger margin, more than 17,000 votes. The margin is 17,000 votes. Earlier, it was only 7,000. So it's a big win for Aam Aadmi Party after losing the Delhi Assembly elections. Aam Aadmi Party was sidelined in the Gujarat, but now Aam Aadmi Party is claiming that they will be the main opposition. They will remove the Congress. People don't believe the Congress against BJP, and that's why Aam Aadmi Party has a good chance, and they will form the government in 2027. That's the Aam Aadmi Party claim. After this victory.
So AAP claiming that they're confident now of ensuring they put up a tough fight in 2027. We are tracking all those updates that come in on the reactions with the bypoll results that we've put out for you from Kerala, from Gujarat, from Punjab. The big takeaway is there. Winds of change in that one seat in Nilambur of Kerala, but in the other 2 in Punjab as well as in Gujarat, you see essentially the Aam Aadmi Party managing to retain both their seats. Thanks to all of our reporters for joining us with those details. So even as the Congress is celebrating that win in Nilambur of Kerala, Congress MP Shashi Tharoor is making headlines again. The Congress won't be happy about this because Tharoor has called Prime Minister Modi a prime asset for India. And that's triggered shockwaves again within his own party. Here's more details of exactly what Tharoor has said this time.
No stopping Shashi Tharoor's open admiration for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Congress MP Shashi Tharoor has stunned his party with fresh praise for Prime Minister Modi. Fresh off a five-nation diplomatic tour defending India's Operation Sindoor, Tharoor penned a column calling Modi a prime asset for India, lauding his energy, dynamism and global engagement.
What we've seen from the press statements by both the Prime Minister and by President Trump are very encouraging because it looks like some of the big concerns we all had have been addressed. They've decided to sit down together and do a serious negotiation. I think that's a very good outcome because otherwise the fear was there might be some hasty decisions made in Washington which would have affected our exports.
Tharoor even urged greater backing for Modi's diplomacy, a direct rebuttal to Rahul Gandhi's jibes at Modi. Tharoor's admiration for Modi comes days after he openly admitted rift with Congress brass.
Yes, there may have been some differences with the leadership on some issues. Those can be sorted out in closed-door conversations, and I don't see any reason to discuss them now. Whatever is out there in the public domain is out there. We'll leave it there.
But not everyone's clapping. Congress has been slamming Tharoor for snubbing the UPA's own surgical strikes, calling his praise a betrayal. Tharoor is, however, unfazed. He has hit back at trolls and critics, saying he's got better things to do. Tharoor has unleashed a spree of Modi praise, hailing the Prime Minister for Operation Sindoor and conducting the very first surgical strike on Pakistan.
What has changed in recent years is that the terrorists have also realized they will have a price to pay. The Uri strike in September 2015, that was already something we had not done before. Even during the Kargil war, we had not crossed the line of control. In Uri, we did.
Does the Modi-Tharoor bonhomie point to changing equations in Kerala Congress? Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, moving on, let's talk about what's been happening in Andhra Pradesh, where a horrifying video emerged of former Andhra Chief Minister, YSRCP Chief Jagan Reddy's convoy running over a man, mowing him down, killing him instantly. Trouble, therefore, is mounting for Jagan Reddy. Jagan, along with 5 others, have been named as accused in the case related to the death of that YSRCP worker who was fatally run over by a vehicle in Jagan's convoy. The 55-year-old YSRCP supporter died after allegedly being run over during a rally in Guntur a few days ago on June 18th, videos of which have also emerged. The YSRCP has claimed the case is politically motivated. Jagan Reddy has also spoken out about the allegations, accusing the Chandrababu Naidu-led Andhra government of lapses in his Z+ security protocol during his visit. The TDP has lashed out, accusing Jagan of negligence and insensitivity. I'll bring in Apurva Jayachandran from Vijayawada for the latest updates on this. Apurva, take us through the reaction that's come in from Jagan Reddy. Has he reacted and responded to the charges against him because he's been booked now?
Well, that's right, Akshita. In fact, the YSRCP has given a strong statement there. Not only have they gone ahead and said that, it's going to be quite difficult given the situation that had taken place. In fact, the YSRCP has pointed out and have, stated that this is an unfortunate event that has taken place, but have alleged that the TDP-led NDA government is playing dirty politics there. They say that this unfortunate event had taken place when Jagan Reddy had, gone ahead for his Satanampalli tour there from Vijayawada. But ongoing in that tour, what had happened is that due to the amount of crowd that had gathered there, this unfortunate incident had taken place, and that they are in fact, that nobody had expected for such an incident to take place. at that time is what we are getting to learn. Moreover, the TDP there but has Guntur SP, while addressing the press meet yesterday, has given a strong statement wherein he has said that not only was this a sheer act of negligence, but moreover, looking at the crowds there have been questions raised as to why, when there were only 100 people who were given permission, why was there so many crowds that had gathered at that stage, and that
Right.
where the convoy had been hit.
So while you have Jagan claiming lapses in security, the police there in Guntur maintain that there was no prior information that these kind of crowds would gather or that Jagan Reddy would arrive in such a massive convoy. So the war of words continuing there. Thanks, Apurva, for those details. The unfortunate reality is that while you see this back and forth, one person has actually lost their life because of the chaos that unfolded in Guntur.